Sing that shit.
But before I hop right into it, I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, SeatGeek. Now, I know you guys have already heard of this app, but if you haven't, I would highly recommend that you go check it out. SeatGeek is an app that takes all the confusion out of buying a ticket. Be it a game, concert, Broadway show, whatever the occasion may be, they got you. And they even give you a out of 10 score on each ticket to know if you're getting a good or a bad deal. Green good, red bad. And if you're still kind of iffy on it, if you use my promo code ModernHoops, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. And there will be a link to it in the description box below. And remember, if you use my promo code ModernHoops, you will get $20 off your first purchase. So go check them out. So let's take a moment and rewind all the way back to the 2016-2017 NBA season, which was only actually 2 seasons ago. Now, during that time, John Wall was on top of his game, putting up averages of 23 points, 11 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. He also shot a modest 33% from the 3 and a solid 45% from the field. But prior to that, John Wall only saw the postseason twice in his career. And this season, he was determined and led the Wizards to a record of 49-33, finishing 4th in the Eastern Conference. And John Wall continued his amazing play into the postseason, increasing his scoring averages to 27 points per game, while also dishing out 10 assists per game, and also shot 34% from the 3 and 45% from the field. He led the Wizards to the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Boston Celtics. He even had a couple of amazing games and even hit the game-winning 3 in Game 6 against the Celtics to force a Game 7.
And Gortat. Porter can't find anybody. He gives it to Wall. Working against Bradley for 3. John Wall! What a shot!
Now you talk about a pressure shot. That was it. Because they had nothing. They were trying to bring Bradley Beal from the left side of the floor.
But sadly, John Wall and the Wizards did fall short of the win in Game 7 and was defeated by the Isaiah Thomas-led Celtics. But even so, everything was starting to look up for John Wall. After being a not so hyped up first overall pick in 2010, John Wall was determined to be more than just an average player or a pretty good player. He was shining as the Wizards' new franchise player. He just came off a spectacular season and even forced a Game 7 against the Boston Celtics that year. And all this combined led him to sign a 5-year, $207 million Supermax extension with the Wizards in the offseason. The extension would kick in starting in 2019 and will add $170 million to his existing 5-year deal. Yeah, that's an absurd amount of money. He joined Russell Westbrook as the first players to earn Supermax extensions with their original teams, but at that time, nobody was really complaining about the contract because of the success they had in the season prior. The Wizards also saw big improvements from players such as Bradley Beal and Otto Porter Jr., and the Wizards were planning on building their future core around Wall, Beal, and Otto Porter Jr. Once again, it did make a lot of sense at that time, and John Wall, to a lot of people, was one of the best point guards in the league and was even recognized as the best point guard in the East. You even had some people go as far and say he was the second best player in the Eastern Conference behind LeBron James.
Especially when you're you're the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. Maybe the second best player in the Eastern Conference, maybe.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. The funny thing is, if you're the second best player in the Eastern Conference, you can go.
Once again, John Wall was on top of his game and was shining as the Wizards' new franchise player. The sky was the limit for John Wall. But fast forward back to today, only 2 seasons later, John Wall is arguably at the lowest point he's ever been in his career. And instead of talking about how great of a player he is, we're over here talking about and getting reports of how bad and inefficient of a player he is on the court, how overrated he is, and how his contract is a huge liability for the Washington Wizards. It's honestly sad to see how much he regressed in only 2 seasons. I mean, just 2 seasons ago, once again, we were all talking about how great the John Wall era could be in Washington, and now we're talking about how it needs to come to an end. And as for the Washington Wizards, they've gotten even worse, becoming one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the league. I mean, just this season, they started off 5-11. I don't think anyone ever expected them being this bad this season. The young core of Porter, Wall, and Beal really didn't pan out as they thought it would. I mean, they just traded Otto Porter Jr. to the Bulls for Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker, and a pick. But heading into this season, John Wall was supposed to pick up where he left off 2 seasons ago, and after having a disappointing season last year, a lot of Wizards fans were excited, but sadly, once again, it hasn't panned out that way. So that's going to lead us to the question, what's happening to John Wall's NBA career, or what is the cause of his rapid downfall? That's the question I'm going to be answering in today's video. So with everything out of the way, guys, let's just hop right into it. So coming at number 1 is chemistry issues. Now, to put it blatantly, John Wall has never really been a really good leader throughout his career. Although he does try, it just doesn't work out. Almost every year, we've always gotten some type of report talking about Bradley Beal and John Wall's relationship and how it's not a really good one. And then there was also the whole John Wall and Marcin Gortat ordeal that happened last season, and the team as a whole was affected by this. And let's not forget, at the beginning of the season when he showed up to camp out of shape and called his teammates out, and things only got worse from there. After the Wizards 4-1 start at the beginning of the season, John Wall had this to say: "That's the proof in the pudding. Everybody on their own agenda, and we show glimpses when we do stuff as a team. We show how good we can be, and then we go back to trying to do it individually, and that's mostly on the defensive end, not helping each other out, not team rebounding, and that's what's killing us." Bradley Beal also stated this: "Sometimes we have our own agendas on the floor, whether it's complaining about shots, complaining about playing time, complaining about whatever it may be. We're worried about the wrong stuff, and that's not where our focus needs to be, and that's just going to continue to hurt us." You know, this just shows the dysfunction the Wizards were going through in the beginning of the season. There was also the confrontation earlier this season between John Wall and Scott Brooks, and a report by ESPN reported that Wall yelled at Brooks, "You." And during practice, he then apologized to Brooks and teammates the following day. The Wizards actually fined John Wall after this happened, and once again, there was also the partying too much incident that happened earlier this season also. And actually, a couple of years ago, an NBA executive wondered about John Wall's social life and how he would age, and he said things along the lines that players who like to party excessively tend to see a steep decline through the second half of their career. Now, this season has been a continuation of last year's story with all the drama and commotion. Of course, it is important to have a good chemistry with your teammates, but it's also important to have a good relationship with your coaches and people around the organization. And you know, when incidents like these keep happening, it doesn't really paint his career in a good light, and these incidents in recent years have had negative impacts on John Wall's career with the media and things along those lines. So, you know, it's not really helping him out. Number 2, injuries. Now, the second reason, and probably the biggest reasons for John Wall's regress, is a common one, and once again, it's because of injuries. Now, the past 2 seasons combined, John Wall has played a total of only 73 games. Now, last season, John Wall had a knee injury that required surgery, limiting him to only 41 games, missing over half the season last year. Although he did come back later in the season, John Wall's numbers were affected by his health. His scoring average, assist average, and steals average and shooting percentage dipped from the season prior, as he was in and out of the lineup and often playing through pain. Though once again, he did play 41 games, but a good portion of those games were with an injured left knee. However, John Wall had major improvements in a lot of other areas. He shot a career high 37.1% from the 3 on 4.1 attempts per game. He also cut down his turnovers slightly, and most notably, he raised his blocks per game averages from 0.6 in the 2016-2017 NBA season to a career high 1.1 per game. But with that being said, his absence with injuries did affect the course of the Wizards season. They did sneak into the postseason as the 8th seed, but sadly they lost in the first round against the Toronto Raptors, and this really sucked because John Wall just came off his best season, averaging 23 points a game and leading the Wizards to the Eastern Conference semifinals, and not to mention he just signed the biggest contract in Wizards franchise history, and he just came off one of his most healthiest off seasons, and people were expecting a MVP caliber season from John Wall, just to be disappointed by a season filled with knee injuries. But sadly, things didn't get any better for Wall because everyone was expecting a comeback season season from John Wall this season, but sadly things got even worse. So John Wall started this season off slowly, but before he was able to get fully back into a rhythm, we got terrible news that John Wall would undergo a season-ending surgery on his heel, which had been causing him a lot of pain and discomfort. But sadly, the terrible news doesn't end there, and it actually gets even worse because John Wall would end up suffering the worst possible injury you can get as a basketball player, as we got reports this season that John Wall suffered a torn Achilles tendon in his left leg and is expected to miss most, if not all, of next season also, and that's if everything goes right. So that means John Wall would end up returning by the age of 30, and you know, it's just sad to see a player suffer this type of injury at this point in his career, especially a player as passionate as John Wall, because you know, this is supposed to be the prime years, you know, the best years of his career. And you know, just imagine what these types of injuries do to a player mentally. You know, you put in all the work in the off season, you try your best to prepare your body just to be hit by a season-ending injury. Although with all the modern medicine we have today, we are still uncertain on how this injury could affect his game, because yes, we have had players return from an injury like this, a torn Achilles tendon, but there have also been many players whose careers were never the same after suffering this type of injury. Also, John Wall once again might be 30 by the time he returns, and we have no idea if he'll have the same athleticism and explosion. And each passing day, it seems like John Wall's career is turning more and more into a what if. But a mix of chemistry issues and dysfunction around him mixed with injuries has really derailed John Wall's career. But hopefully John Wall can save his career while going through these tough times, and you know, I wish him nothing but the best. I would never wish something like this among anybody. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share and subscribe for more NBA content. And you know, while you're at it, if you haven't, go ahead and follow me on all my social medias. Links to my Twitter and Instagram will be in the comment section and in the description box below. But with that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you all later. Peace.